Thanks everyone for being here. Yeah, we're going to talk about how we transition from DBT Core on-premise to DBT Cloud. My name is Alejandro, and my colleague here is Matthias. We're both platform engineers at DPG Media, which is a company in Europe, in the Benelux. And yeah, we'll talk about what DPG Media is, what do we do, what's the platform team, what was the problem, I think around 6 years ago when the need for data exploded at DPG Media, how we use DBT Core to solve most of the issues, what were the challenges that we faced at the time, how we use DBT Cloud to solve most of them, and what are the next steps that we're going to take to still improve our setup. So I'll let Matthias introduce what DPG is and what do we do.
So we're from Europe, so I'll explain a bit what DPG Media is, because probably if you never heard of it, it's a bit foreign. So we're a media company. We produce all kinds of newspapers, magazines, radio channels. We have television shows. We've got a whole bunch of things. We also have an online streaming service. Most of this is located in both Belgium and the Netherlands. We also have a Danish branch, which is a bit smaller. But we have around 6,000 employees. And that's a bit why the size of the company. We became this big, because of the last 20 years. We acquired every 2 years. There was a new acquisition where we acquired some new newspapers or television, whatever. But acquisitions for data teams, it always means that we also inherit someone else's data stack, which is one of the reasons why we have a very wide variety of tools laying around, wide variety of data practices, how everything works. So sometimes it's a bit chaotic. Another thing to note is that we have a very wide variety of business units, and they all have a very high level of independence, so they operate and work in different ways. And that's all things that we have to deal with as the data platform team. So what do we do? This is a bit the stack that we support right now. There's a bunch more technologies that I didn't dare to put on the slide. But this is the supported stack from our team. Also note that the data platform team at DPG Media is 4 engineers. Half of them are on stage in Vegas. We're only 4 guys. We support 200 data and analytics engineers on a daily basis. And the reporting tools like Click and Looker, they're consulted about 2,000 people every day. So that's a bit the scope. So an average office day for us sometimes feels like this, like we're struggling, technical issues. It's sometimes very chaotic, but overall, we're kind of proud that we, with our small team, are able to offer the tools for our engineers to build really powerful data pipelines that power data innovation at DPG Media. All things aside, this doesn't go without problems, and Alejandro will tell you a little bit more about those.
Yes, Matthias said, our core business is selling newspapers, and around 8 years ago we still sold physical newspapers, but around 8 years ago we transitioned a lot of physical newspapers to digital, which meant that there was a lot of data available, everyone wanted a piece of it, and everyone wanted to analyze the data. And we had a central data team with around 25 data engineers, and they couldn't handle all the requests from business. It meant, can I add a new column? Can I get a new data source? Data is not available. And probably you're familiar with all of this. And what happened is all the business teams started to process and model their own data pipelines. If you let all the business teams do their own thing, you get a proliferation of tools, systems, and bad practices. And as Matthias said, it also got worse with all the acquisitions. We had multiple data lakes in different business units, lots of different tools and ways of working. So we had Spark, Tableau, Business Objects, Talent, Redshift, you name it, DPG at some point had it at some point. And it was also a bit of the Wild West in development practices. We had no test environments, there was no CI/CD, it was mostly all manual deployment, and there was no governance. A bit to make it a bit funnier, these are really snippets from a Slack chat from the business teams. And since everyone was manual deployment, these 2 engineers didn't know that who merged what. They didn't know what branch was in production, and when something failed, something broke, they didn't know who fixed it and how which version was in production. It was not great, and after some point, this business team decided to, hey, I'll create a development environment, and they can create a new branch for improvements. So this was I think when I joined the company, this was the state 4 years ago. However, I think what this meant for business, there was this Slack chat that was, I think it was around 200 people, data engineers, data analytics engineers, or data analysts, and editorials. And the goal for this Slack chat is at 9 a.m. all the editors, chiefs in the newspapers get together to see how the newspapers are doing, and they see what articles are being read the most. And the issue was that at 9 a.m. Every day the data was not ready. So the reports were empty. There were no reports. This is my name. I got tagged in this every day. They go to look at the dashboard. There was nothing there. And one of the biggest issues is there was no data quality. So when the pipeline failed, no one knew, and they didn't know that the pipeline didn't run. And I think also 7 days later, I got a message, hey, data 7 days ago was not ready. And they only noticed 7 days after. And this was the state 4 years ago. And what we did is we used dbt core to the rescue. We used dbt to fix all of these issues. And the name is not very, it's a bit, it's not the original name, so we created the data build service, and as Matthias said, we're 4 engineers, and we're serving 100+ developers. We use dbt core as a standardizing tool for all data transformations, and the goal was to get rid of all the silos, all the silo projects from all business units, and we went to the business teams telling them, hey guys, we're going to build a mono repo with all your dbt projects for 20+ teams. Don't judge us on that. We thought it was a good idea to get a mono repo and get every dbt project there. We're going to get a manual approval on the pull requests. We're going to do automatic checks with dbt project evaluator. There's going to be CI/CD, so you know that your latest version is going to be in production. We're going to get a standardized Slack alerting, and there's going to be a Slack chat that we created for support. So if you've got any other question, if you've got any other issue, just ask us and we'll help you out. Since the time that we started the team until every team was migrated, around 20 teams, it was 6 months. Everyone was very happy. The old setup was quite bad, and the new setup, what we offered, was very good. And to give a bit of a scale of what we did, it's around 4,000 dbt models across all the 20 teams. This is probably familiar to all of you. So what we had is dbt. So we have an analytics engineer that was just writing code on dbt, making pull requests on GitHub, and we use Data Hub for our data catalog. So every time a pull request got created, we had a CI pipeline that pushed the metadata to Data Hub, and all the changes when someone clicked merge were pushed to Airflow. Then Airflow executed the job, materializing into Snowflake, and if something went wrong, it will the alert will go to Slack. And as we said, there was not everything was good. 4 engineers supporting 100+ developers, that's a recipe for disaster. And these are the things that we learned. So if you're trying to get 100 developers that do not know what Git is, they don't even know that they need Python to run dbt, it's very hard to let them install everything. So we decided we're going to create a CLI tool to alleviate the problem. But if you have 200 people using the CLI tool and you want to upgrade dbt version, it's very hard because you need to update the CLI. Everyone needs to pull changes from the branch, and everyone has to do it at the same time. They had to install Git, Python, dbt on Windows, Linux, and Mac, and that was a nightmare for us, and that didn't go very well. On the other hand, onboarding 100+ developers and telling them we're going to check all pull requests manually, that also didn't go well. At some point in time, we had 100 pull requests a week that we had to check between 4 people. We also had 50+ questions a week in Slack, and these people had issues. They didn't have support at the time. They didn't know how to do dbt, didn't know how to do analytics engineering, and then we're going to help you out. Please ask your questions. So we had to create a dedicated role for this. So you had, I think, once every 4 or 5 weeks, you had to be a rotator full-time on these kind of things, checking all the pull requests and checking all the questions in Slack. And surprise to no one, the mono repo became too big. We had 4,000 DBT models, so builds, deployments took very, very long time. But there are also things that went well, and obviously this is the first one. Everyone knew that main or master was deployed in production, so whenever someone clicked merge, it went to production, so everyone knew that if something failed, they knew what version was deployed. Also, the Slack chat that I mentioned before disappeared. I think I've already left the team, but I got a message one day, hey Alejandro, we're going to do a party at the office. We're finally commissioned the chat with 200 people, and I went to the office, it was a lot of cake, lots of party, all the people were happy, because then they knew that if there was not a Slack chat on an error, it meant that the dashboards were ready and the data was available. We also created, used the DBT project evaluator package, so all the DBT projects were a bit better. Everyone knew that the quality went up. And I think one of the biggest accomplishments that we do manage is the community of practice is still alive up to today. We had a Slack chat with 100 plus people, and we managed to get them to answer questions from each other. So if someone has a question, we don't have to answer it ourselves. Maybe someone else that knows the answer can post it in a Slack, and that solved a lot of issues for us. We also host a weekly community of practice, which means that every week we try to set up a meeting, half an hour or 20 minutes, depending on the topic, and try to tell them how to do, how to teach them how to do better DBT, how to do better best practices, how to do reporting, how to do automatic checks, or how to do testing. And I think it's the third year that we'll do it next year. We've hosted twice the yearly data platform day, which means that we get together with all the stakeholders in the office. We have a day with presentations, food, obviously, and drinks, which if not, they might not come. And we try to do presentations ourselves, telling them how to do better, how to do testing, and what are we going to do moving forward. And I think last year, or I think it was 6 months ago, we invited DBT, and they hosted a session on to do how to do testing and alerting. And yeah, we had quite a journey from a lot of teams doing things all themselves, us using DBT core to fix some of them, and we faced a lot of scaling issues that we decided to make a change and migrate to DBT Cloud, and that's what Matthias is going to tell you about.
Yeah, so those scaling issues were really problematic to us because we didn't have any time to do more development, so we got like stuck. So we had a look at DBT Cloud, if it could help us overcome these problems. So after a short evaluation, so we just tried out all the features, like it said, okay, we're going to bite the bullet and we are going for this, we're going to migrate everything. How did we go about this? So first of all, we set up like a new project completely in Terraform. Automation is really important for us, being a small team. And then we showcased this to our stakeholders because the existing projects, they had to undergo quite some changes. For example, we used quite a bit of environment variables that came from Airflow that doesn't work really well with DBT Cloud, so those things needed to change. So we gave a presentation on these are the changes that you can expect. This will be the impact. This is what you need to take into account and how long it's going to take to migrate your project to DBT Cloud. Most stakeholders, they just gave a go and said, yeah, okay, we will do this. We helped them migrate each project individually, which took quite some time, but like an individual project, if it's a big one, like 1,000+ models, it took us an entire day to migrate it. Mostly we automated a lot of the changes that need to happen, like with some scripts that go through the code and update it, set up the new configuration whatsoever. The smaller ones, they took about 2 hours, so it was pretty okay. We also, along the way, got used to it and doing it, and we went faster and faster. And we also revamped the weekly community of practice a little bit because we were like focusing on data modeling and things you can do with DBT to actually showcase features in DBT Cloud. For example, how they can run their local development environment and compare the state to production. For example, things they couldn't do previously. We focus on that so they also learn the features that they can use and make their life a little bit easier. The total time we took from evaluating it to having all the projects converted was about 5 months. And meanwhile, we have around 5,000 DBT models in total. So it was pretty okay. But what did it actually solve for us being the platform team? So automation is a really important part of what we need. So like we manage all these tools. Automation is a high priority for us because otherwise it's just not going to work. We don't have time to do manual interactions. So with the previous setup with DBT Core, we had some automations in place, like a cookie cutter template. We have some deployment pipelines that we could reuse, but still it was quite a bit of manual work to set up a new project. Because of DBT Cloud comes with its own Terraform provider, we're able to like completely automate the process. Like Git repository is created automatically. Everything is done through a CI/CD pipeline. We just need to provide a little bit of configuration, the name of the project, who has access to it, and then off it goes. Everything is provisioned automatically. Also, upgrades of the DBT version, it's just centrally managed. We just update the version that we want to have in production. All the projects get updated whenever we want. So that's like a really huge advantage for us as a platform team. But also for our stakeholders, there were a lot of improvements for them, primarily in usability. Like many of our stakeholders have no technical background whatsoever. They know SQL, but they don't know why they need to bring their Python to the office to run DBT. They just want to execute their SQL queries. That already improved a lot. So the less technical users, they just use the web UI, but we still have a whole bunch of power users that still want to code in VS Code. But DBT Cloud gives you this opportunity to like also use the DBT Cloud CLI, and those power users can still work with that. And then like we saw with the keynote yesterday, there's also coming a visual editor like for us that will enable us to onboard even more stakeholders that even do not know SQL that much, but can also build new models. And then last but not least, like we're a small team. Having the support of DBT Labs is a big advantage for us. So if we can't figure out the problem, we can rely on support, but to support our stakeholders, if they have issues with their projects, they can also contact support. That really helped us to get rid of the support burden that we had. How does it look now? So the picture looks a lot different because we re-architected quite a bunch of things. First of all, the CI jobs. Previously, we didn't really make use of the DBT state, which would mean that in a pull request, we would have to rebuild the entire project. We didn't do that anymore because it became too expensive. So what did we do in a PR build? We just did a DBT compile and we ran the project evaluator. That's some checks, but not nearly as reliable as actually executing the models in a test environment. So now we can do that because the state is managed by DBT Cloud. We don't have to handle syncing the state to some remote storage or something else. It's just managed by DBT Cloud. We set up a Slim CI. If there is a pull request, we just rebuild the models that have been changed and their descendant models. So it goes really smoothly. It's pretty efficient now. Next up, we don't use scheduling in DBT Cloud. We still use our Airflow setup because most of the time DBT is just a transformation step in a bigger pipeline. But still, it was pretty easy to transform that. We just use the DBT Cloud operator, which is offered, that triggers the job in DBT Cloud. So that thing did change, and we don't execute the DBT project ourselves anymore. All the jobs are executed from DBT Cloud, so it's just an orchestration step. So then DBT Cloud executes the jobs on our Snowflake account. If something goes wrong or something goes well, alerts can go to Slack. Really nice Slack integration. Our stakeholders have way more information than they used to be. A nice link to the logs if something goes wrong. So all of that really improved. And then last but not least, because DBT Cloud executes all the jobs, we can now connect a webhook. So whenever a job finishes, either successful or not, in dbt Cloud, we have a mechanism that automatically ingests all the metadata from that job into our data catalog. So if a job finishes, the webhook's been triggered, we collect all the metadata, the documentation, but also the test results, something that we didn't do previously. So now if someone looks in our data catalog, they can also see which tests have been executed against a certain data asset, and is this data asset reliable. For a report, we have some plugins in our reporting tools that can check the underlying reliability of data assets, so stakeholders can see, if I open this dashboard, is what I see, is this correct, or are the underlying data assets, do they contain some errors, or are they as fresh as I expect them to be? So that's a really great improvement. So we finished this whole setup like 3 weeks ago. So what's next for us? Like, what can we do more? The main advantage for us is that we regained some time, and now we can focus on doing other things. Like, we want to continue focusing on making dbt as the standard transformation tool at DPG Media. Hopefully making our stack that we saw before, making it more simple, trying to get rid of some tools that are used less, and make it a bit more uniform than it is now. Second is like the whole dbt mesh setup. We are not using this at the moment because we are coming from a dbt core project where it is impossible to make dependencies between projects. So the next step for us is just making those dependencies explicitly. There are dbt projects that obviously rely on each other, but that's not visible right now. We hope with dbt mesh that we can further simplify our setup and make those dependencies explicit so we can also see them. And then we want to continue to build integrations between the tools that we have. So like, we don't want our data platform just as a bunch of tools that we host for our stakeholders. We really think it's important to have like a unified user experience, that it's all integrated and they don't have to think about certain things. For example, synchronizing with the data catalog, for example, that should be something that's automatic and that our stakeholders don't have to care about. One of the things that, that we are trying to do now is to build an impact analysis in the pull request step. So we use the metadata that we have stored in our data catalog data hub. So in a pull request, we're going to check if whatever you're doing into your dbt model, is it going to impact downstream assets like a dashboard or other data pipelines. Because now we do have improved testing in the pull request, but we still don't know what will happen if you change the name of a column. Is there a dashboard that's going to break? So overall, what does this whole transition meant for our stakeholders? Primarily, it helped us to focus more, instead of resolving small technical issues, helping people out installing Python on their Windows machine. We really regained some time to build features for our stakeholders that they really want and to make the pipelines at DPG Media a lot more reliable. An example of that is the impact analysis, where we also had time to integrate a cost reporting tool. We use Select to monitor our cost in Snowflake. So you can see the cost of individual DBT models and how much a certain dashboard costs, which can power a cost optimization strategies later down the line. We also managed to automate access control in Snowflake, and now we are exploring to improve the workflow in our BI and reporting tools. So that's the things that we have time for now, because previously we were just overwhelmed with support tasks. That's a bit our journey we had at DPG Media. If you have questions, feel free to ask anything. We're the guys that built it, so we know everything about every detail. You can email us as well, and we do a small extra Q&A session at the Data Hub booth at 2 o'clock. So you can talk to us there as well. The thing was, it's mostly, you can't do just a lift and shift. If you do that, you're going to lose out on a lot of features. So you need to maybe restructure your project a little bit, think a bit differently about jobs, especially if you're not taking into account the state now. We still don't do that as efficiently as it can be done. But also, yeah, that's the main point that we sometimes struggled a little bit with. And trying to automate it is one thing, but yeah, the vast size of all the models that we have, it also makes it difficult. There's always exceptions, and if you have 1,000 models, then there's 200 exceptions. So that can make it tricky. Yeah.
So how was this transition from core to cloud received by analytics engineers and data analysts? And did you have more people being on board with cloud because of the user-friendly UI and everything?
Yeah. Most people really like it, especially the ones that really struggled with the local setup. Because we have all kinds of, because of the acquisitions itself, like not every Windows laptop is the same. And we also have MacBooks and some people that use Linux. People really struggled with their local installation, and those issues have gone. So that's one thing that people really like. And then the less tech-savvy users are really happy that you can just open a web page and just get started with it. So we did onboard more people. We actually ran out of licenses, so we need to contact DBT sales again. But it really helps us to get people started building their own data pipelines. Also, because they don't have to think about the scheduling in the DAGs anymore, that's all parts that we are able to automate because the entire setup is a bit simpler. They don't really need to know a lot about Airflow anymore. That also helped this transition. Yeah?
Yeah, question related to Airflow. So you orchestrated DBT first using Airflow. Now you moved to DBT Cloud. With Airflow, you have a lot of options to orchestrate, whereas in DBT Cloud you have a lot less, which is, I think, a lot better. Did you encounter any concerns from business teams that they would lose out on scheduling options? And how did you address them?
Yeah, most of our teams they see Airflow as a burden. They don't see it as a useful tool that they can connect more things. They just want to run their stuff at a certain time. So for them, it's not a big issue. We have more technical teams that might run into those kinds of issues. But overall, it hasn't been an issue. We explicitly do not allow scheduling in DBT Cloud itself, though, because we also have ingestion pipelines that need to run first before the DBT Cloud project starts. And that's just not possible. If you use the scheduling in DBT Cloud, it's just the DBT Cloud's project itself. So that's a conscious decision that we made. You have to go through Airflow. But most people see it as a burden rather than a useful thing. The other thing is, with the jobs, some people exploded their DAG in Airflow as well. So that you can see every model that you had in your DBT DAG, also in the Airflow DAG. That's not possible anymore, but it's a good thing because it really slowed down the execution. So overall, the Snowflake cost went a little bit down because it executes a little bit more efficiently than what we did on Airflow. Yeah, I'll do you first.
As you guys are scaling out on dbt Cloud as consumption-based model that dbt Cloud is moving towards, is that a concern? Is that a challenge that you are facing?
Yeah, it's always a bit of a concern because, like, frankly, with a lot of tools in the data space, it's the case. As well with Looker and Click, if you want to give someone access to data, it means that you will have to pay for another license. So it's always a bit of a concern. But yeah, having a small team like ours, the advantage that we don't have to scale our team and hire more people to handle support outweighs the cost of the licenses that we need to buy for dbt Cloud. Also the ease and having the support a little bit, there's a lot of value in it besides just paying for the license.
Yeah, I think my follow-up was, I was less worried about licensing and more worried about the per model execution.
We pay for seats, not for models.
Yes.
So for every developer, I think there's two options, but we pay for every developer seat, not for per model. So that's I think it depends on how your company is structured. Because we do have, we're close to 5,000 models now. So it's a lot, so if you would have to pay per model, wouldn't be a wise choice for our scenario. Yeah.
Do you find it a challenge to integrate logs between Airflow and the dbt Cloud? Sometimes you want to drill down from the orchestration logs to see what happens in the dbt run, right?
Yeah.
Now you have dbt logs for maintaining the dbt Cloud, and you have Airflow logs on its own where you are. Do you find it challenging to integrate both, or do you need to integrate?
Yeah, but in our situation, it's the responsibility is separated. So we, as a platform team, are responsible that those projects that get executed and the execution logs itself. So we handle all the Airflow stuff. Our users don't really care. If that fails, they don't really care. They will just contact us and say, yeah, my project failed to execute. Please have a look at it. If the dbt project itself fails, it's their problem. So there's an organizational boundary so that we don't encounter that issue. But I understand what you mean. But for us, it's not an issue. More questions?
One question. So on the Airflow itself, so you were using Airflow when you were using the dbt core.
Yep.
You are still using when you are on the cloud. So what's the effort on the Airflow DAG itself? What changes you have?
Yeah, we used to run dbt in a container. So instead of using one of the container operators, we used to execute on ECS. So instead of using an ECS operator with the dbt command in it, we just installed the dbt Cloud provider in Airflow, and we just now use the dbt Cloud operator, which you just have to link a job ID from Airflow, and you just trigger the job in a thing. So it's very minimal.